What does it mean? This is from Capoli. What does it mean when you say someone's name out of nowhere and they text you? This is what we're saying, that we're living in the time now where those higher senses, those powers, especially if you are raising your vibration, you're going to start to access your latent powers that have been there all along but needed to be activated. So that's part of what we call telepathy, or telephone to the Pataites, or the, the Pathites. So like when you think, we can use mind-to-mind communication and communicate, and then somebody will pick it up and respond via text, or they will call you back. All right. Yeah, Rahubat DJ Customs, excellent. Yeah, thank you. Rahubat, what's your knowledge about twin flames? I mean, again, like when people say, what's your knowledge? It's like, it's so broad, but in this world, there are so many terms and phrases that people use to describe the same thing. So in our culture of Wu-Sabat, what we're talking about is really what you're calling soulmates, right? We have a part of that called the soulmates. And this is in relation to finding that person that completes you and resonates with you, and the two of you become one. And so, yeah, people will use terms like twin flames, but it's really about how do you go about finding, because, in relationships, people will go, especially in the Western world, they promote this thing called boyfriend and girlfriends, which we don't really subscribe to, especially for our young people, where you meet different partners and, you might have relationships that don't work out, even though you still learn and gain experience from it. Over time, it's not a good thing, because you're exchanging DNA fluids, which become a part of your DNA and a part of your personalities that can affect you. So we are saying that, yeah, find your flame. But again, religion and everything always pushes fire. But when we're talking about light, the positive green light, that being that resonates on that vibration and frequency with you, so that the two of you can become one and produce offspring that are gonna be supreme beings, etc. Okay, we have a live caller, so let's get into the live call. Rahubat, where you calling from, and what's your name? What's your question, please?
Rahubat, this is Kali Monk again,
Hey,
calling from
Rahubat.
Scandal. Yeah. What is your take on the drone situation? And is this, most of it, is this CGI that we're seeing on the internet and things like that, or what's really going on? Because there's orbs and then there's drones. So, yeah, I just wanted to know your guys' take on it. Thank you very much.
Tabutat. Yeah, for us, the master said to us, why do you guys act surprised when you hear of, UFOs, what they used to call them before, or UAPs? He said they've been here from the beginning of time, and they've been here, living here, coming and going. And for us, this is what's actually quite amusing to us as Sabians or Nuwapians, because the master teacher was teaching us about extraterrestrials from the get-go, because he explained that he is an illa mutajasid, or an avatar that came here by way of a craft. And where he comes from, they have many crafts. And he taught us and showed us throughout the scriptures of crafts, right? So he came by way of the comet that people know as Bennett, the comet Bennett, right, in 1970. And it was called by an astrologist, Uhuru, which is, it means freedom in the Swahili language, which is a mixture of Arabic and Bantu. So I'm saying that to say that when he was teaching about extraterrestrials and crafts, and in the in the 60s, 70s, a lot of people were ridiculing and saying that, we're crazy, and what were they talking about? But then he showed us systematically throughout the scriptures, the book of Daniel's, the book of Revelations, Revelation 21, Isaiah. There are many, many parts of the Bible even the cloud that, followed the children of Israel, stopping the wise men were following a star that led them to Yeshua, a star that was stopping, waiting, maneuvering, and turning. And so, obviously, the Anunnaki story with Nibiru, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke about the mother plane, which we know as the Crystal City. Nibiru obviously cannot come into our solar system because it's too big and it will affect the planetary bodies. However, crystal cities were sent, and there are different crystal cities within the crystal city, smaller ships called shams. One of the shams was actually filmed in the Gulf Breeze many years ago. I'm saying all that to say that for us, he has always said we're going to live and see the time when extraterrestrials are going to be like normal, and most people are going to see it. Over time, they were suppressing it. And when people would see UFOs or talk about extraterrestrials or aliens, as they call it, they will label them cuckoo or mad or crazy, the Roswell incident. So there have been many, many incidents throughout the years by different cultures, different people all over the world, people being abducted, relaying their stories. So now we come to 2024, and he told us there's going to come a time when it's going to be commonplace. So what does the adversary do? They try to create chaos. Remember that for every action, there's an opposite reaction, and you've got agreeable and disagreeable in everything. So you have golden children, then you're going to have the fire children. You have Yahweh, seraphim, cherubim, but people refer to this as good or bad, Yahweh, etc. So what's happening is the devil makes evil fair seeming, and he creates confusion and chaos by using things like strategies such as problem, reaction, solution. So create a problem, see how people react, and then offer you a solution. So with the drones, there are real extraterrestrials, there are fake ones, and with technology now, you can use all kinds of holographic images. But so the drones are a mixture of fake and real, because if you really think about drones, at the moment, you've got civilians that have got drones, and then you have the government that have got drones. And I told people to watch a Netflix series called, the name just escaped me, but it will come back. Anyway, I'll remember it by the end of today, but it's a show where they're using drones because people have actually been segregated and to stay within their cities, and these drones will police and find people. But I'm saying that to say that the government, by saying that drones are dangerous and they can just attack people, there's no control over it, they pose a threat, they can then pass a law, one, raise funds through the public, taxation, etc., to deal with the security issue, and then they could ban civilian drones but have government drones, right? But it also ties in with the extraterrestrials that are now becoming more and more common. People are seeing them more and more. So yeah, there are agendas, and we just have to keep watching the space. We've got another call, so let me take that. If anybody can remember the series I'm trying to remember, put it in the chat. Rahubat, caller, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question?
Rahubat. My name is Eric Roldan L. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia area.
Tua.
I was watching your video on the breakdown of the Anunnaki, and literally I saw it was very distinct. I saw one it looked like a shooting star, of course, but it was going into the Earth's atmosphere downward. And then I thought I was crazy. Then I saw it again. In a few moments, like 15 minutes later, I look into the sky, I see it again. So I thought that was weird. But my question is, so Anu is the God of the Bible and the Quran, right? But is this the same deity that we worship, or is it separate? I didn't quite understand that in your breakdown. Like, is this a disagreeable being or
Okay,
mhm.
I got you. So again, we're explaining the whole Anunnaki story because agreeable and disagreeable is yeah, it's a thing. But what we were explaining is that in the biblical stories, these are coming, and the Quranic stories, that basically Abrahamic religions are coming from the Sumerian doctrine. And the characters and the beings that are being spoken about in the Bible are dealing with the Anunnaki and their family, you know. So most people are familiar with these two children, Enlil and Enki, because they're prominent and they were, you know, warring against each other. And the grandson of Anu, known as Murdoch, who is Enki's son, was chosen to basically kind of take control and was given a mission. And those stories have been then watered down and watered down into the Bible. And when you're reading the Bible, you're not seeing the names because you're just seeing God, 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 God all the way through, or Allah. But you're dealing with Enki and Enlil. They had wives, they had family, brothers and sisters. And then the Anu that we're talking about in the Holy Tablets, because the Holy Tablets that the Master Teacher upon the Babylon put out was the completion or the end of that story by way of religion, and then it expired when he started to teach us what he came to give us, which is Wu-Sabat, wu-nuwapu. And so we, as the original people, are descendants of the Natharu, Pa Natharu, right? They were here first. They came here before anybody else came here, before the Anunnaki came here, and other beings as well, like the Hindu beings, the beings from Pleiades, etc., etc. So what we're saying is that our deities are the Pa Natharu, and the thing is that people mix things up. So they will say words like Elohim or Natiru or Anutu, or as we say, Anunnaki, which is it's a description and describing beings coming here. But when you start to delve into the different stories and the different beings and which culture is explaining this, they will use the terms to describe beings coming here, but they don't give you the specific of which beings we're talking about. So the Anu that's in the Holy Tablets is the ninth Anu, because there are other Anus prior to that, because the title of Anu is like having the title of president or prime minister, the highest seat, you know, in that country or that government. And so Anu will be the most high. So yes, our ancestors are known as the Pa Natharu, the overseers, who are, they have different classification, who come from Orion and from Sirius, and the master teacher is one of those beings known as Yanun. And depending on which galaxy is pronouncing his name, they might say Yanan, Yananan, Yanun, Yanin. And so he's one of those beings representing the part of the 24 elders as the 19th. And when we say he sits on the Intergalactical Federation or the Council of Nine, so our ancestors would be the Natharu, the highest of them being the Etherians. And the planet where he comes from, known as planet Risk, in the 19th galaxy known as Ilion, they had three continents, one known as Kuzmusta, which is where the native Riskians reside. But then they also had another continent, which is, you had Kuzmustas, Donoria, and what's the other one? It escapes me. But the other one is where visitors would be able to stay. And then you had, you know, another one. But basically these three continents are where he comes from. That planet has a tri-solar system. And those three suns in ancient times, in the Sumerian times, were known as Shamash, Utu, and Apsu. Okay, but that all is taken from ancient Egypt, where you have Atum, Atun, and Amun, or the three positions of the sun. So yes, our ancestors, the Pa Natharu, but what happened is that when Enki and Enlil were here, Enki went to Africa and he mixed in because he took wives from the Africans, or what we say the Pataites, which evolved and came onto land and they were here first. So there is a mixture. So you do have people, have we got another call? Oh, we do have people who are pure Natharu, meaning that they're the prodigy or the descendants of the Pa-Natharu. Then you have those beings that are mixed by Anunnaki and Pa-Natharu seed. And then you have those who are not part of the Anunnaki or part of the Natharu, but every seed and every being on the planet evolves from those original deities as ancestors, which we say overseers or overlords, the providers, because the DNA and the genetics of everyone will always go back to the root. So even when the Pleiadians came here, or those Hindu beings, they still had the original DNA or genes within them, but it got watered down, or through the experiments, they created all types of deformities and different types of beings that then evolved on the planet. All right, I'm going to take the other call. I hope that's answered that question for you. All right, Tua, Rahubat, caller, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question, please? Rahubat, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, can you hear me?
Tua, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, not hi, apologies.
That's all right, greetings.
Yeah, I was calling about what do dreams actually interpret? Because I've been having some way serious dreams that I really can't really get the understanding of them.
Tua, all right. So again, the master teacher has taught us about dreams. The first thing to establish that is that there are different types of dreams. You have dreams which are just you trying to purge things that you have stored over the years. These could be movies you've watched, fears, incidents, things that have happened in your life, books you've read, all types of, information you've been exposed to. And then you have dreams which are messages that are specifically for you, and only you will be able to work it out or interpret it. And then you have visions or dreams where you have messages to share with humanity, and you have dreams where you're traveling into different dimensions or into different realms. And so what he teaches us is to keep a notepad or note and pen by our bedside. Some dreams, as I said, could just be horror movies or things that you've accumulated over time. And by you writing down your dreams, if you're able to remember them, you will be able to then look at what's going on in your life, things that are maybe bothering you or that are stressing you out or whatever, and start to eliminate and see if you can make connections as to that dream. So it really depends on what type of dream it is. And he said that really nobody can interpret your dream for you. That falls into the realm of, belief and sorcery and people trying to control you. So it depends on your dream. And what I would say is document it. And over time, you'll be able to connect the dots and link things up. All right. If it's something that is like, again, if people meet people or visit places in their dreams, try and find out as much information from those beings as possible. The one thing he did say that no one can imitate him in their dreams. So if you see Pa-Nabat visit you or meet you in your dream state on your travels, that is really him, because no one can imitate him. But you have other extraterrestrials that can play with your mind, send you images, send you things. Some are agreeable and some are disagreeable. So it could be your ancestors as well. So it all depends on the dream. So the dream question we get a lot, and we've answered it many times. And we would like people to join the Telegram group, because that's live continuously, people asking questions and getting them answered, every day, every hour, every, week, month, etc. So join the Telegram group, because again, we're limited in terms of the time we have on this live. Oh, we've got another caller. Hey, roll back, Kaiser.
Hi,
How you doing?
Robert Saken.
Rahul,
Greetings.
greetings, brother.
I'm feeling better. My cold is doing better. I took some flavor through. I took some emergency, the thing with the little stuff, and it's drink lots of tea, and I'm feeling much better than when I had my cold
Glad
2
to
days
know.
ago.
Glad to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in that season, and we've got to top up on our vitamin C. Make sure you have a lot of elderberries because they're good for the immune system, and the herbs you've mentioned as well. Drink lots of
I ate
water.
elderberry.
Yeah.
Yes, listen to what you said. The elderberry helped me out.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. How can I help you today? What's your question today?
Thank you, Masakem, my brother.
Yeah.
So I heard you were talking about Anu, and I really love how you break it down for me to understand. Because when I watched the videos from Young Elder, he's talking about how Anu has a company called Risk Tech, and they designed the shams. So I wanted to know more about how the Igigi are going to upgrade our brain capacity so that we're able to pilot the ships like Anu does, because Anu pilots Nibiru with his mind. So, and then my family, we're Asian American, so I wanted to know what about Yoruba? Like, what is a Yoruba, and how to help my people that are in Christianity trust their ancestors, because a lot of the time, like especially with my people, they pray to Jesus, and their ancestors talking to them, and they're scared of voodoo. They're scared of their ancestors and their own. So it's like curious to me, like how come we are afraid of?
Okay.
Yeah, and then yes, and the last thing would be
I'm
anything
trying to
else you like
remember
to
all
talk
of the
about.
questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I love information, and OSM Vision, Ashok, abundance and love to you. I'll maybe call, in a few. Oh yeah, it was about how to protect ourselves and watch out for. I would love for you to react to a few videos from Vidal. He talks about. Have you heard of Vidal 104? The clip. He shows a lot of the master teacher. I like to talk about the people that actually mentions him, not just people that don't, like Billy Carson would. So that's why I actually like showing you clips and videos from those two channels, so you can pick videos that you like that I send and make a reaction and answer to what the video is. So that important video, Vidal is very intelligent. I like how he articulates information, and he's talking about Project Bluebeam. Basically, I know it's on the news right now. Project Bluebeam. They're gonna do drones. They're gonna do holographic.
Yep.
So they can, with the technology, it's 40 years and more advanced. And I know they have crystal technology. For example, a crystal, like how much
Are you
data
really
can a
expecting me
crystal
to
store?
remember all of this before I answer the question?
Crystal. A crystal. I know it's a lot. Crystals store more than a nonillion, right? Is that nonillions of data? So I want to know what are crystals and how we use crystals to manifest. A lot of people say, for example, the pink crystal and the blue ones, they attract your love, whatever, things like that. So, but about the Project Bluebeam and how to be psychic self-defense against holograms that they're gonna try to scare us with, so that we become obedient to the 1% when we outnumber them. 1 to 10,000. Yeah.
That's a lot to try and remember, but I'll try my best.
Fire. Yeah. Let's go. Question answer.
All right. So, where do I start? The first thing is to remember that when it comes to, I'm kind of going to work backwards if I can. When it comes to crystals and technology, the master teacher as Parnabab Yanun and the Riskians, they're like more than 100,000 years advance ahead of us in knowledge and technology. So when you hear the master teacher saying things like he has 76 trillion years of knowledge, this is when you start to look at crystals and what they've got today called a quantum quantum computers or using like, chips now, where they're discovering that they can store so much information using melanin. It starts to show you how our melanin, the value of melanin, and people that know this are tapping into this, right? So I'm just saying that in terms of the technology and things like holographic computers, the master teacher exposed and broke this down from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s in the Man from Planet Risk book, in the Dr. York versus the Computer book. And so when he's saying about how will you be upgraded, first of all, you have to make it first. The master teacher is the person that has the book of life, where the names are recorded for those people that are going to be worthy to be upgraded. And he told us about the corrections that we needed to make. And you can read the Master's Secret, that I think is Master's Secret number 3, that goes into, these corrections that we're supposed to have and the things we're supposed to master. So if you are worthy, they will replace your barothry gland, which gives you access to your 4 higher senses and the ability to utilize and use more of your brain. They show you this in movies like Lucy and Inception and so forth. So in terms of you being worthy, you have to first of all apply Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat is the doctrine that will transform you inside out, that will make you raise yourself to a point where you can receive your crown, the golden crown. And when we wear these tarbushes, not fezzes, because that fez, that ties into the Moors from, Morocco and the whole Moorish thing. But the tarbushes, they have a circle, as you can see, the one at the bottom and you have the one at the top. These represent 360 degrees of physical information and 360 degrees of what people term spiritual information, or the seen and the unseen world, which is building you up to becoming a 720 degree being when you add the 360 plus 360, which is contained within the 2 circles, right? So it's all about accumulating this right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding, which will lead you to sound right reasoning. So it's all about your dome, because your dome also represents the universe, and you as a being represent your replica of the universe, and your dome represents those constellations. When you start to study how your synapses work in terms of the neurons and how they send information, and these neurons exploding and creating heat that is giving you the knowledge. I'm saying that to say that studying Wu-Sabat and having the knowledge, not just studying it and having the knowledge, but applying it by way of Parnababianun's instructions and guidance, being that elder that is keeping the name. So when you go back to talking about crafts like Nibiru, which, as I said, they're so much bigger than the planet Earth that Nibiru can't come into our solar system. But there is a crystal city that has been stationary above our planet, hidden, and other crystal cities or smaller shams are coming out of that one. And so I'm saying the crystal city is made up of crystals, different crystals. And you can read all of this in the book of Revelation 21. And the different crystals, they have so much ability and power. And because at the end of the day, you're dealing with vibrations, the colors vibrate. So when the master teacher's comet came, what they called a comet, it came as a green light, and no comet moves or has that color. If you study comets, they don't have green lights. So I'm saying that to say that when you're dealing with a being that has this amount of knowledge, there's nothing that's impossible. He explained to us that they can stop time and operate on you and insert the barothry gland through the submental, which is the chin. Sub, because it's under, because it's not going to be reinserted the way it was initially. Sub as in submarine, submental, and that which submental means that which reacts with the mental, and this will give you back your abilities. When it comes to things that you've mentioned, like the young elders teaching, anybody that's teaching anything or people that are putting out information online, you have to address your questions to them to clarify what they're saying, because I don't think it's fair for us to try and break down or interpret things other people are teaching. If we were to do that, we would literally have millions of people to try and break down. So we tend to stick to what we know by way of the master teacher, Pandabab Yanun, and what he teaches us. Yeah. So obviously he has taught us about Nibiru and the 144,000 people that were originally on it, manning it, and Murdoch was the one that was flying it or controlling it. So I'm just saying, yeah, I can't really comment on what the young elder said about what you're saying. Trying to remember the other bits. Do you remember any of? There was so much.
Controlling the craft of his mind.
Yeah, I mean, your mind is the most powerful thing anyway. Everything you do is by way of your mind. This is why your mind, oh yeah, he said about psychic defense as well. This is why your mind is bombarded all the time with messages, and your mind connects you as a satellite or a computer to the network known as the mental reservoir, right? The mental reservoir is a reservoir of thoughts from where we tap it into as a satellite. When I say satellite, like these smartphones, this is what you would call a, trying to think of another word for it. Like when you have a computer system, you have yours, which is like your desktop or yours, but then it's connected to a wider network where you can connect to servers and pull information. But we're living in an age where we're using wireless networks, and now we're using, you know, Bitcoin, and we're using the blockchain and things like that. So the blockchain is based around how your mind is, or your brain, in terms of, if you imagine how many neurons you have, and each neuron can contain the entire information of the brain. So it's replicated so many times that you can't really destroy the information, like how every node, that's the word I was trying to remember, every node that's on the network has it replicates the entire network. So this is why the blockchain is so secure and is able to continuously grow, and is very secure because it's hard to decipher. But anyway, so yeah, your mind is the most powerful thing you have. So thoughts are sent to you, you connect and pick up thoughts. Some thoughts are not your own. You also have your ancestors, the personalities within you, and each one of their 30 or less personalities, or 29 or less, because you have to subtract yourself. And so, yes, your mind is very, very powerful. Even when you look at the X-Men, the most powerful being is the one that uses his mind. And if you think about it, if you were in a confrontation with somebody and they had guns and weapons and whatever, and all you had to do, if they were about to shoot you, is use your mind and tell them to change their mind. That's such power. So yes, you can use your mind to do miraculous things. And so yes, the mind is powerful. Now, in terms of your psychic self-defense, as you see it, psychic is that you can be attacked without, you know, psychically, without you knowing it. And so it's important. This is why even with learning our language, that is your defense. Wu-Sabat is your defense. The practices of Wu-Sabat, the chants, are your psychic self-defense. Because what you're doing is, if you break everything down to vibration, right? Whatever it is, people, places, things, thoughts, food, if you break everything down or simplify it to a vibration, that means that you either have positive or negative vibrations, and you can allow those vibrations that are low to pull you down, and you can allow the ones that are high to pull you up. Because when your mind is sound and is operating at a particular vibration, which is a fast vibration, you're able to calculate and process information much, much quicker. than if you are dealing with low vibration and you're dealing with those lower emotions, energy in motion that pull you down. You see, so it's important to always maintain a high vibration and a high frequency. So yeah, your psychic defense is about putting into practice Wu-Sabat every day and applying it, not just becoming a book junkie where you're just accumulating information in haste and not taking time to digest and apply what you're learning. Because the master says you show that by way of your actions and not lip service and the words that have ing at the end of them. I'm going to do it. You know, just do it. It's done. You know, some advertisers have stole that. Just do it. Just do it. That's the only way. I have a nice donation. We want to share our love to Miss Chief NZ. Not a question, just a shook. Wu-Sabat is changing my life. Oh man, I felt that. That's good. That's what we want to hear. When we hear people say that, and the master teacher loves to hear how Wu-Sabat is having an impact in the world. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And you can write that in the comments and join the Telegram group and also make that comment. This is what, you know, we call a testimonial, right? Which is real life. And Wu-Sabat will change your life because it's alive and it's real. And the more steps you take towards it, the more it will take towards you. We have another caller, Rahubat. Can you tell me your name, where you're calling from?
Rahubat second.
Hey, Rahubat.
This is Terry Jamal.
Sorry, I was just sipping a drink.
Hello.
Rahubat, go ahead. What's your question? How are you doing today?
Yes, I'm doing great. Yeah, so maybe it's noise in the background. We have some rains here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
We can hear you
so
though.
my question, I was reading the scroll on Man from Planet Risk.
Okay.
And then there's this part which caught my attention, which I needed. Maybe you can provide more information. Where the master teacher was asked what his purpose was.
Do you have do you know what page number? Because I just happen to have it in front of me. So, what page?
I've forgotten the page number, but it should be one of the early pages. It should be page 20 something.
Okay, but go ahead whilst I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the master teacher was asked what his purpose was, and he answers, "My purpose is to raise you and prepare you for the now." Then it goes on to say, "Tammuz, who was once disagreeable, is now agreeable, who will come and get those 144,000. Then after 1,000 years, they'll come back and save the planet." So, like, my questions were, maybe if you could just give more information about that.
Okay, cool.
The saving of the planet, is it saving it from the disagreeable, saving it from, like, maybe you can just give some details regarding that.
Sure. All right. One of the things that we have to emphasize is that the information that the master teacher was putting out prior to the year 2000, it's not the hereafter doctrine, right? When we said the hereafter doctrine, so a lot of people that didn't follow him through from books like The Man from Planet Risk and many other books that he put out prior to the year 2000 are stuck a little bit in the old information. So where things have been updated and upgraded, you know, you can get kind of left behind. But yes, it's still relevant. It's just that things have now been clarified and cleared up in terms of what he's teaching. So the mission has always been to raise beings. So again, when we say the 144,000, it's symbolic, it's a number, it's literal. And so his whole job is to prepare and raise us back to supreme beings, that we become the teachers. Yeah, it's ironic because this is what's happening now. Those students that have been walking with him, because many people said they will follow the Lamb wherever he goes, and he has taught us And the year 2000 represented the end of that 6,000 year cycle, and a new cycle began. And that 6,000 year cycle was the end of the moon cycle, because you had 4 cycles of 6,000 years which complete, and then a new cycle begins, where they say the 7th day, right? When you're looking at it from the symbolic kind of aspect, where the 6th day, so they say to you, you know, God created the world, and then on the 6th day, or the 7th day, he rested. And but in terms of the cycles, after the 24,000 years, a new cycle begins, and this is what we're in, and that's the 1,000 years where these supreme beings that we are the new master teachers, that the master teachers raising to teach the new doctrine and the new world. When you use a word like the lamb is a symbolic title of someone who is humble, right? Because the master teacher was referred to as the lamb. And you have the lamb and you have the lion, right? The lion deals with the new age that's coming in, known as the Aquarius, because when you start to look at the way these cycles take place, when you're moving into what they're calling into Leo, to, you know, like I was saying about going to Aquarius, it's using the Sphinx as the lion, because the Sphinx in Egypt represented that, you know, when you're looking at the let's say the hands of a clock that's moving, but you're dealing with an intergalactical cycle. And so what I'm saying is, words like the lamb, words like Tammuz, in the old doctrine, in terms of before the hereafter doctrine, when you're dealing with Tammuz, Tammuz is a name that was used in ancient Sumerian, right? Who was the being that the story, because remember the Anunnaki stories, when you're saying Tammuz, Tammuz is the son of Dumuzi and Ishtar. That same story was the same story in ancient Egypt that's relating to who they're calling Osiris, Isis, and Horus. So what I'm saying is, like, Tammuz is the 6th in the calendar, in the Sumerian calendar, that's the 6th day, okay? So the symbology in terms of Tammuz, in terms of the lamb, all those titles, even terms like the Messiah, because in our Telegram group, somebody else was shocked when I was saying that the master is the Messiah, and it's put in the, I think there's a video we did already about that. And people get, because of the religious mindset, they said, oh, he can't be the Messiah. They're waiting for a Messiah. But when you break down the word Messiah, it's dealing with the anointed. And many people were anointed and have been anointed for thousands of years. And it's a ceremony that comes from ancient Egypt, where you were using the oil of a crocodile to anoint somebody, okay? So the term of a Messiah is not as great as how people try to make it when you compare it to being a god. And it's common now for everybody to say we're gods and we're goddesses, and people will say you're blaspheming, you can't be God. And it's like, we break down the word. What does the word God mean? What language are you coming from? And which scripture are you coming from? And we know that it breaks down in the Hebrew as Elohim, and there are more than one. So what I'm saying is that you have to upgrade. We have to move into the hereafter doctrine that is dealing with what's happening now. Because even in the Man from Planet Risk book, he explains about the time period known as now, which again is talking about from the year 1970, right, to the year 2000, first half hour, and from the year 2000 to 2030, which we're in now, which is the full hour. So now is that time period, but there are cycles within cycles within cycle, because you can also look at the cycle from 1973 or even 1943 because of the Philadelphia experiment, because that's also spoken about in the Man from Planet Risk book, the Philadelphia experiment, which at the time they were trying to carry out this experiment of teleportation. You know, they had the USS Eldridge, which is a ship in Virginia, and they were trying to make it disappear and appear. And, the whole movie is out, called the Philadelphia Experiment. But the point is that the scientists at the time, Nikola Tesla being one of them, who is a Venerian, by the way, because he was the first person to have radio communication to Venus and beings from Venus. This is why he was so smart, because he was actually in contact with these Venusians, which he was one himself. But he was the one that was in charge of that experiment, and he knew that they didn't have the technology at the time to be able to carry out this experiment. And he tried to warn Van Neumann and these other scientists that they shouldn't carry it ahead and to wait, but they didn't. So he's kind of sabotaged the testing, and because the reason is they didn't have enough technology power to create the computers to align the zero time reference, because that's key in terms of when you're doing teleportation. So you may have seen Star Trek back in the day on TV, where in order to teleport you from one place to another, they have to lock in your zero time reference to be able to break you down into your molecular structure, digitize that, and transport you to, because you have the coordinates of where you want to go, and then reassemble you based on your information being put back together. If you get the calculations wrong, then what happened in the Philadelphia experiment is that people were merging with the ship and the metals, and lives were lost. So they didn't have that technology, so they needed 3 years to build that computer, and it threw off time. And this is why the vortexes started to open every 10 years after that 1943 Philadelphia experiment. So 1953, 63, 73, etc., 2003, and obviously we were 2013, and so on, right? So, wow, we've got quite a few donations coming in. So I hope I answered the question. The thing about questions you guys ask, they bring out information from us. So when we're asking questions to do with the hereafter doctrine, we give that. But when people ask information to do with the information prior to that, we give that also. But really, we need to catch up, we need to study and come up to date. But I hope that's answered that question for you. So he's preparing those beings now, and those beings become the new teachers, the new master teachers, to carry out and teach. Oh yeah, you were asking about saving the planet. Yes, the planet was on a path to destruction by the disagreeable beings, and it's still possible. This is why we have to raise our vibration and raise the consciousness of humanity to change the negativity on the planet, so we can help to save the planet. And so it's not just about just accumulating knowledge and reading books, because you may be given back your barythry gland, which gives you your full abilities. And the more power you have, great power comes with great responsibility. And so that's what you are. You're being turned into a supreme being. And it's important to take this seriously, be studious, study, and apply Wu-Sabat, all right? Okay, let me just give some love to Ayaye Moses. Thank you for your donation. Much appreciate, love that. In some of the scrolls, the elders pose with the pinky finger out. What is the significance of that pose? Right, yeah, so that pose is when they do that. The significance of the pose, if you see where the finger is it's pointing to a particular seat, or what people will call a chakra, but it's dealing with the heart seat, because it's dealing with ashuk, which is dealing with love. And you first have to be prepared in your heart. You won't do or act or do anything if it's not done with love that will be of benefit. So if you're doing things or do things and it's not from the heart and from love, you're not going to be motivated enough to be consistent and do it with ashuk, with love, which is divine love. Yeah, so that's what, and it's also referring to beings of the order who have been raised, and their heart seat is vibrating on a vibration or a particular frequency. All right, so that's the answer to that one. And again, thanks for your donation. Tylonda Smith, yes, thank you too. Tawuat, which means thanks. Yeah, I'm just reading the second one. Hi, can you explain the word repass and purpose it serves after a funeral. I don't know what it serves. Well, actually, I kind of do after a funeral, but repass is dealing with, if you break down words, again, this is something that we teach a lot in Wu-Sabat. You have to break down words. So re means to do again. Pass is, and English is technology. So you have to then say, okay, pass. Pass can mean so many different things. Pass as in passing me, or pass me something as in, you know, a ball or something. So repass, it means to do again or repass. So when you are crossing over in relation to this, are you going to be allowed to cross over or pass, or will you return and come back through to this dimension? And so it's all about, this is why we're teaching Wu-Sabat, because you have to know where you're going in the afterlife. You have to prepare yourself and know where you're going, so that when you're crossing over, this is why we don't say that you die. We know that energy cannot be destroyed, and we know that you're here to learn and to study and to master the lower vibrational planes, the three-dimensional plane, the material plane, the physical plane. You have to be able to master it to the point where you're not the physical material things are not binding you here, because your physical is bound here, but your spirit, your soul, if you are raising your vibration when you cross over, you will be able to repass or be accepted into the other realms. And so the religions and the low vibrational stuff, the attachment to material things, cars, money, houses, lust, all those things are low vibration that pull you down and hold you here. So if you want to transcend and go further, then you need to be able to, to be able to repass, because you hear the term even in certain brotherhoods, pass or repass. So will you be allowed to pass or repass? All right. I've lost, let me go back. So yeah, that's King. I've lost the chat. If you, okay, oh yeah, I got it. I think so. Yeah, I got it. All right. So that was for you. I got it. Cool. And then we've got Debbie as well. Debbie Coombs. Appreciate love.
Did you see the one before that?
Yeah, I done that one already. Yep. All right. So let's go back to the questions. So, oh wait, Allington, I didn't see that one. Okay, Towel Hat, thanks for your donation. Okay, right, let's go back to the questions before we get another call. So yeah, remember, this is serious, this is no joke, this is reality, this is as real as it gets. If I can find, King, do you have that Wise Man scroll? It might be.
No, I left it.
Was it there? Ah, okay, no worries. There was something I wanted to read, and what I wanted to read from there is basically the master teacher telling you that he's the one that has come to do this job. You're not going to get this from anywhere else, whether you accept it or don't accept it, whether you do what he says or not do it. This is why we keep telling people that, we're not a religion, we're not religious, we're here to uplift and raise the consciousness of society.
I took a picture of every page.
Is it? See if you can find page, I think it's 50, 51 or 50. Start from like 47, 48 and go. I will know. It's the one where he's talking about him coming and so forth, right? Yeah, so I'm saying that don't be fooled by others, discern, and you can feel it. Wu-Sabat works from inside out. Yeah, so you either vibrate and you'll resonate with it, or you don't. And if you don't, it's cool. If you don't want to change your diet, it's cool. You know, if you understand the benefits, then you know, it makes sense. You found it. Let me see. I'll probably be able to tell. Yeah, I think that's it. No, it's not that one.
Swipe it up or down.
This way.
Yeah.
Sorry, people. Just give me a moment. There's something that I want to... Yeah, here you go. It's on page 57, right? It says it's the one that's got the picture of Malachi Zadok or Melchizedek. It says, as it says in Malachi 4:2, the Son of Righteousness, I am the warner and the reformer of this day and time, to set facts straight. I came to right the wrong. Your imams don't have it. Your sheikhs don't have it. Your reverends don't have it. The so-called Jews don't have it. The Sunnis in America don't have it. The Baha'i don't have it. The Ahmadiyya don't have it. I am the only one who has the knowledge to liberate you, it says Nubians, but Sabians, Nuwapians, from the clutches of the malevolent one, and dispel all his lies and remove the spell of Kingu, the spell of sleep, Leviathan, right? He says, I am the only one. So we're not saying that to be egotistical or anything. It's just that whoever is the most qualified that is being assigned to do a job, they're the ones that are going to do that job. You know, it's like someone gets elected or put in a position to do a job, it's their job. Others can try, they can assist, they can fake it, but the real deal is the real deal, you know? So yeah, let me keep going with some of these questions. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. People that keep thanking us, we need people to join in, do the work, help, subscribe, share the videos, join the Telegram group, start communities, study groups, go into the bookstores, help in any way you can, become a part of it. Don't be a spectator, be a participator, all right? Cover that. Let's keep going. Okay, I was in a sleep state, but wasn't fully sleeping. I had to have been on the soul plane, but maybe I could be wrong. Yeah, in time it will be revealed to you. One of the things about Wu-Sabat and Parnabab Yanun, it's about patience as well, because sometimes we want everything now. You know, we've been trained to live this fast food, everything's fast. And sometimes being impatient and fast does you a disservice, you know, so we can wait and be patient when we don't have answers, because he always gives it to us when we need it at the right time. Watch 76 Trillion video and the Palladians video. I'm truly full of knowledge. Okay, all you had to say was that it's possible. What's possible? I don't know. Maybe people are having conversations. I'm just trying to catch up. Okay. Can you explain? Okay, I've done that one. Remember, for those joining, if you want to call in, it's +44 753 996 3882. I repeat, +44 753 9963 882. Was there a god of Ma'at? Yeah, depends on, yes, simple answer, but you have to break down what a god is. But yeah, Ma'at is an ancient Egyptian deity. Hey, Rahubat, Jamel.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good to hear from you. How are you doing today? What's your question?
I'm feeling well, and thank you for asking. And my question is, I had a conversation with a Hebrew Israelite the other day.
Yeah.
And you know, of course, my a brief of my background is that I believe in the ancient Egyptian religion.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I got it.
and we had a very interesting conversation. I really wanted to see your input or thoughts on it.
Okay.
And the question was that that Moses was talking to Ramesses and Moses left the land of Egypt, and Ramesses chased after him and got right in the Red Sea. And I was telling him that Ramesses, you can find his body. It's not washed away in the Red Sea. And he said, "Oh no, well, you also have other Ramesses like Pearl Ramesses and Ramesses the second, the third, the fourth, and all the other stuff. He don't necessarily know it's Ramesses, but he know that it could be one of those guys." And I pretty much refuted and said, all bodies of Ramesses from 1 for the first to the 12th, all could be found. So I want your advice on this, or see what your input, because his input was that that everybody, all the Ramesses that's in Egypt, the bodies cannot be found. And I'm thinking, or said to him, that they all could be found. So I wanted to know your input on that.
Contact. Yeah, again, I always have to emphasize this. These are the types of things that keep pulling us back into the realms of religion and beliefs. And the master teacher, I'm just going to show people some scrolls. Not that you can probably get hold of these now, but this is 360 questions to ask a Hebrew Israelite, okay? Because when we deal with this whole religion stuff in terms of the Hebrews, and this is 360 questions to ask the Israeli church. And the master put these books out a very long time ago. 360 questions to ask a Christian. And I'll also, this one is a classic, 360 questions to ask the Orthodox Sunni Muslims. And he did that after he had completed answering every question put to him regarding religion and these three monotheistic religions, because he knew that we had to move on from them, and the religious mind state keeps you arguing and fighting about the characters and the people in these monotheistic religions. And when you're saying names of people in the books, some of these people don't even exist because they plagiarize stories from ancient Egyptian stories. So like you say, Moses that they speak about, that received the 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, and Leviticus, they've never provided any evidence of him existing. They've never provided or found any evidence or bones of Jesus, of Solomon, of Gabriel. But incidentally, when you go into Egypt, you will find the pharaohs. So when you're saying Ramesses, you're seeing where they've taken Ra and added Moses to it, and that person goes to who they call Thutmose, and you had the different Thutmose, the first, the second, and so on. And we have in our scrolls, and they have found the pharaohs. Even when you're saying Thutmose, he was a student of Tahuti, and you hear the phonetics Tahutimus or Thutmose. He was a student of Tahuti, and we know Tahuti was the scribe in ancient Egypt, depicted on all the walls with the beak, and that beak is a symbol of the quill that he used to write, and you see him always writing and recording information all the way to the emerald tablets and so on and so forth. So I'm just saying that to say that there's no point in 2024 arguing or debating or trying to prove the Bible or the Quran and all of that, because we need to give them back. I mean, we study them so we can help answer people's questions and people that are still stuck in them, but really we don't have time for that. We need to move on to Wu-Sabat, because Wu-Sabat deals with the hereafter doctrine, the actual facts, deals with evidence, reason, and experience and evidence. You have to find and prove what you're talking about. But I hope that's answered. I got another call, so let me move on. Yeah, Rahubat Zamal or Zamal Tat, what's your name, where you're calling from, and what's your question?
Hi, Rahubat. My name is Femi. I'm calling from Toronto, Canada.
Rahubat.
And I have two questions, and they're actually both related. And it's in regards to Dr. Malachi Ziyok.
Sure.
Just because I have been doing like some personal research, like your advice to like do research on like his cases.
Sure.
And have been also looking into his cases. I did find a YouTube channel of someone called Chase Morgan that pretty much goes into details about his case.
Yeah.
So my first question would be, most times when you talk about Malachi Ziyok and most of his teachings, I do the teachings do resonate with me a lot, and I was very happy when I found this channel.
Yeah.
But when you talk about like certain things like the planet risk and things like that, like I'm just trying to understand like what scientific evidence do we have of like these teachings? Because I know I've been watching you from the very beginning, and I know you don't believe. You always, you decide based on what you know. So I'm just trying to understand like what scientific evidence you have. That's my first question. And my second question is just going back, because I'm a little bit younger, going back and looking at old videos of Dr. Malachi York. I noticed it's kind of like similar to Islam. So I'm just trying to understand, is Wu-Sabat like kind of like similar to like Islam in terms of like worship and stuff like that? Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. So what you would know or should know if you didn't find out is that Morgan claimed to be, well, he doesn't claim because we have pictures of him being in the community and also being, back then when he was studying under, the master teacher. You have many people who, since the lies and the false allegations and his incarceration, that kind of ran away or turned their backs, or they just thought, oh, you're not real no more, or whatever they were following all these years. But what he knew was that many people would be, what's the word? It's like shaken when he was like, when the adversaries decide and say he's not real or whatever, we quickly as Negroids, we kind of like not support or stick with our own. But to answer the question, basically that when he was teaching, the information that he's been teaching about planet risk from the get-go till now has been consistent. And at the time, it was too advanced where people didn't accept or know about extraterrestrials. People didn't know or accept tri-solar systems. People didn't know about, things that, the technologies that, when it comes to like medical things, like the 3-parent births. They didn't have telescopes like the James Webb telescope, or didn't have, the Hubble telescope back then when he was teaching. So a lot of the information that he put in the books is still consistent. And over time, things started to be revealed, like tri-solar system, where he was explaining that his planet, where he comes from, planet Risk, has a tri-solar system. But of course, we're not asking anybody to believe anything that they can't substantiate for themselves. So yes, you don't have to accept or believe something you haven't been able to confirm for yourself. But with us, if somebody has given you information that is consistent and proven everybody else on the planet wrong by presenting the facts, dismantling everyone else's beliefs not based on facts, if you have, let's say, 95% of that accurate information and it's true and it resonates with you, the 5% that you can't verify, you just have to wait. So we're not asking anybody to believe, but for those of us who have been following and been studious enough to be a diligent inquirer, we have got to a stage where we know and can feel. Remember, he's raising us and developing us to a point where you know things without anybody having to tell you. There's things like intuition, psychometry, we keep saying it all the time, that you develop. So you will know for yourself because it's dealing with your DNA, whether something is true or not. And when we flip the script and ask everybody, how do you know any information that you're being taught from anybody else anyway? How do you know what NASA is telling you is true, or whoever is telling you? You agree and go by way of what they're saying, and you're not able to go and check certain things out for yourself, but you accept it, you know. So people accept things that are so easily proven wrong. People accept heaven, they accept angels, they accept God, and they accept Allah, and they accept things that when you start to probe and question them on what they believe and accept, it falls short. So do the same thing. So yes, to answer the question, he has written a book called Risk and Illusion, a small tiny scroll. And when somebody tells the truth consistently, this is the final point because I've got someone else waiting. When somebody tells the truth consistently for over 50 years, for every single book that he has ever published, and it all aligns, it's hard to dispute, because when you tell a lie, every time you tell it again, it changes, you know. So I would say to you, keep studying, keep researching, accept the things that you can confirm, and the ones you can't, you wait and have patience. But I've got another caller, so let me jump on that. Hey, Rahul Bat, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question?
Rahul Bat, brother. It's Eric again. I had a question. Oh, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, Rahul.
Now, I had a question about the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I know we say that religion is relying on jinn, so I'm just curious on your views on the Moorish Science Temple. They claim that the Circle 7 is the seventh seal of Revelation. But given it's also a religion, is this something that I should follow? Again, when I first opened the Holy Tablets, Dr. York referenced the Moorish Science Temple and Drew Ali. He's even in the Holy Tablets. Now it's at the point where Wu-Sabat teaches one thing and the Moors teach something else.
Okay, I got you. Right, so this is what you're referring to, right? The Holy Quran Circle 7. Again, to answer your question, follow Wu-Sabat. Come over to Wu-Sabat, because we recognize these people like Noble Drew Ali, but the reality is that all of them, whether it's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Noble Drew Ali, who's this person here, right? Their foundation goes back to religion, you know, to the Arabs, and so they were able to raise us, and they're part of our family and our community that took you to a certain point in preparation for the master teacher upon the Babylonian coming. So with all the religious stuff, they were able to give you certain information, but couldn't really take it all the way. And so the master teacher had to come and basically what he said was like, and I know people in the Nation of Islam, some of them, they like, when the master teacher clarified the lessons that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching, for example, he would mention things like the mother plane, and he said that the beings look oriental because of the round faces. He didn't realize what he was talking about were these like beings that look like greys with the slit ties and so on. So they gave information, but they couldn't take it all the way. So Noble Drew Ali, 1886 AD to 1929 AD, he was the prophet and founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America to redeem the people from their ways. But as you can see, right, this Sultan Abdul Aziz ibn Abd al-Rahman, or Ibn Fazl ibn Turki Abd Allah ibn Muhammad al-Saud, right, born 1880 AD in Kuwait and died in February 23, 1953, right? He is the descendant of Hagar, formerly the head of the holy city of Mecca. So let me just read a little bit. It says, the Moorish Science Temple of America, deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to propagate the faith and extend the learning and truth of the great prophet of Ali in America, to appoint and consecrate missionaries of the prophet and to establish the faith of Muhammad in America. The Holy Quran Circle 7 is the book of the seven seals mentioned in the biblical scriptures of Revelation chapter 5. This is what you're referring to. Prophet Noble Drew Ali divinely prepared these lessons through the guidance of Allah. These lessons are to be studied by all members to help better their lives and learn to love instead of to hate. Going back to the heart seat I was talking about before. Included in the circles is the 18th years of Jesus' life, works and teachings which are missing from the King James Version of the Holy Bible. You can study the Circle 7. It is a great source of inspiration which is necessary in order to live day by day. But as you go on and you read this, I don't have time to go through it all. Like I said, the origins go back to Islam, and we are now outside of the monotheistic religions because we predate them. So they were like, if you imagine a relay race, they were passing the baton on to each other. So when we look at Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Noble Jew Ali, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I don't know if I've mentioned Malcolm X already, but all of these people, they were paving the way, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the last before Parnabab Yanun, and he gave prophecies and said when he comes, he will bring the book of Lamb and for people to move over to him and follow him. And the lessons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he renewed them, and people were like, how dare you take our lessons? But the lessons, he says, for the lost and found people in the wilderness of South America, and if he's a wu-nuwapu as a black man, or he said Asiatic black man, which took us back to the Asians, but the lessons were for the master teacher too, and everyone was supposed to study them. So he did, and he basically upgraded them. But there's more to that, because he was in contact as an avatar with these beings, and they asked him to bring their flocks back together, because they all started to disperse, and now we have to come under one banner as Sabians or Nuwapians of Wu-Sabat. Hey, Rahul Bat, greetings. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, and what's your question?
Robert, Washuk, this is Sunra. I'm calling from Atlanta.
Rahul
How y'all
Bat.
doing?
Rahul Bat, I'm
Rahul
good.
Bat.
How you doing?
Rahul Bat. I'm doing good. Nuki Muta Hamad, very grateful. You guys doing a great job. Very proud of you guys. But I have a question. I'm going to keep it very short and very simple.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. My main focus is raising my consciousness and unlocking DNA. I was watching a video last night about a technique where you can synchronize both hemispheres of your brain by this Mukasu named Monroe. So I was wondering, what does the master teacher teach about how to synchronize both hemispheres of your brain?
Okay, Tua. So he's put out a scroll called the Gospel of Yanun on the Sacred Feminine, and he explains that in order for you to do that, you have to remember that males and females are both males and females at the same time, meaning that as a male, you do have you're an XY chromosome, right? So the X is the feminine side of you, and the Y obviously deals with the male. And that even though you do have XY, and the female, even though she's XX, because remember that the Y is a defective X anyway to become a Y. The lower right hand stem facing this way is missing to form the Y. So the feminine or the female is a male because she has, when you look at her genitals, right? Obviously, I don't know if it's censored, but there's a part of her which is like a smaller version. Well, it's biology, a smaller version of the male's phallus. So a male has a feminine side, but in the Western world, you've been taught to be all masculine, and men don't cry and men don't show emotions, and you got to always be strong and all this kind of thing, which is true as the provider, but also you do have to recognize and tap into your feminine side. And it's the same with the female. However, in order for you to be most powerful, you have to come together, because when you're dealing with the two hemispheres of your brain, you have the logical part and then you have the creative part. And by the two of you joining, this brings about the double resonance, in the sense that even though you're both male and female at the same time, when you come together, you bring your both male sides together, and you bring your both female or feminine sides together, and the creative and the logical part come together from the both hemisphere, because a female needs to be balanced by the male and the male needs to be balanced by the female. Hence, the female is more using her intuition. She uses emotions more, and she's more sensitive etc., etc. And the male is kind of pretty much more on the other side. So the two coming together and working together and vibrating together is what's going to raise you the most, because you have to come together and work together. And if you start to do that in more than one pairs, or your universe, she's a universe, you come together, you have a dual verse, you have a child or an offspring, that gives you the third part, the triad, which becomes a triverse. And then if you imagine more families doing that, you get to become multiverses. Many multiverses become omniverses, and then together, working together, you raise the whole vibration of not just yourselves, not the family, but the whole planet as well. But you also have XYX and YXY, which goes into beings that have raised themselves to a much higher level, referred to as hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites, or beings that have a double resonance or frequency. These beings are required to open the gates, and the gates lead to other dimensions. And when we're talking about leaving here, I'm aware someone's waiting on the phone. You have to know when you're opening gates, gates are open a specific time and they close at specific times, and the bodies are moving. So the trajectory to be able to open gates, for the gates to align to get you to where you got to go to, is a very tricky and serious thing that requires beings of a very high vibration and frequency. But yeah, the best thing is to come together with your mate and work together. Obviously, you can work on yourself to raise both sides of you, but yes, the creative and the logic side have to come together. All right, I got someone else waiting on the call. Join the Telegram group if you haven't, because sometimes I just remembered there was a question that I didn't really address the Yoruba part. You see, this is what I'm saying. Sometimes the interactions and the interruptions can mean that I leave out certain information. So if you join the Telegram group, we can continue the conversation. Just quickly before I take the call, Yoruba deals with our ancient animist way of life, but it got desecrated and messed up, just like the other parts of our culture that got messed up with religion. So we'll come back to the Yoruba. But Rahubat, it's Jamil again. Rahubat,
Yeah.
go ahead. What's your question?
How's it going, bro?
Doing my best. Power tap.
That's good. All right, so I pretty much got a question about origin, and it's somewhat two questions mixed in one. But my origin, as you know, brief, I'm into the Egypt religion. Mm-hmm. So it's like I noticed that Shinibul, he's like the dwarf and ancient Egypt. It was in a dynasty 4. Mm-hmm. And they said that he was the founding father of what you call today Mexicans. And I wanted to brief touch on that, on how different cultures came out of Egypt, like Symbolism. But other than that, the main question I'm asking is, I noticed that there's a difference between the Egypt religion when it comes to the fact that we came from Anunnakis or from extraterrestrials. And, in Egypt, it says that, we came from the ground, and we sprung up from the ground, and humans came from this earth. But when you go to Anunnakis, it says that we came from extraterrestrials, and that's the origin story. So I wanted to touch, if we could get your advice, or see, pretty much see what your thoughts on the spreading of the start of the origin. Sorry, the start of our origin, and then the spread of it, like Sinobu and the Mexicans.
Wow. So again, I need to correct something when we say Egyptian religion. Egyptians didn't really have a religion as such. It was respect for nature and recognizing, that, for example, Ra was a personification of the energy of the sun. And so you would see ancient Egyptians raising their hands to give reverence and respect to Ra, but the tones change because it's Re or Reye. And so this is where other cultures, they basically made religion from our way of life. And And the Hindus were the first to do this because they started to worship the sun. But we didn't worship the sun. They started to worship us. And we knew that we came by way of the sun as sun people or melaninites. And when you want to learn more about that ancient way of life, we have this scroll that the master teacher put out called the coming forth by day, which people refer to as the book of the dead. And so when you look in this book, it shows you how our way of life of respecting nature. So when we said sun, we said Ra. When we said we gave reverence to water, we would say Mu or Ma, right? And then so you get the word Ta Mu Nefu, which is dealing with air, or it became Shu, right? Nefu Set. And so what I'm saying is these beings like Ra, Ta, which is Ptah, was dealing with the earth, and the elements that give life were the sun, all right, the earth, the soil, and then the water. And these three are responsible for life. So when you're looking at the ancient Egyptian story of creation and us giving reverence to these deities that represented the elements. So even when you're saying atom, that became, or atom in the scientific world deals with the atom, which is the first. But then that also became Adam in the religious story. So it metamorphosized from being atom to Adam, and Edom, which deals with the blood or the red blood. But you see the story of, say, Khnum taking the soil and forming a man, and you see the picture depicting Tefnut. Tefnut represents moisture, because when they're talking about the elements of, you know, we say Tamare. Tamare, again, is dealing with Ta being Ptah or Ta, as in the earth, Ma, meaning water, and Re, being the sun. Yeah, so what it is that we gave reverence and respect to nature as animists, and we knew that the sun represented life, because when you're dealing with crops and when it was time for harvesting these crops, people rejoiced. And so our way or culture was then adopted by other people, like the Hindus, and then that grafted its way into the Abrahamic religion by the Anunnaki. So we as Egyptians did not have a religion, right? And when you say that the Anunnaki came from the sky, no, that Natharu first came, and they were the ones that came from Orion and so forth. They seeded this planet with their genetics or their DNA, and then the Anunnaki came later on and took that which was already here and evolving from those Ptahites, because the ancient Egyptian stories explains about the beings that came from water onto land, and it goes into a much bigger story where, you know, Sirius C was dying, because we explain about, when you know about suns are really balls of gas, hydrogen and helium, that are continuously burning, and at some point that nuclear energy will run out. When it does, if you're dealing with a solar system and you have planets around that solar system, you have to evacuate, because when it explodes, you have different types of sun. You know, you have red dwarfs, white dwarfs, you have supernovas, novas, giants, supergiants, etc. And these are a description of the different phases of the sun. So when they evacuated, they came here and they seeded this planet. This is when they went about preparing and building these ships to transport us intergalactically to survive and move on. Much like what's going on the planet now, where some beings know that their time here is up and the sun rays are coming, and people that are not able to survive the transition or transformation, they will have to evacuate. Hence, they're trying to go to Mars, trying to go to Europa, trying to go to different places to live. Now, I'm showing you this in this ancient or the coming forth by day, which most people know as the Egyptian Book of the Dead, is showing you these Adamites, the Adam and Eves, as people refer to them, right? So this is, you've got Apsu and Tamat, then you have Anshar and Kesha. Anshar and Kesha are Anu's parents, all right? And these are different cycles and different experiments which people will call different beginnings or different cycles that refer to as, Adam and Eve. And then you get to the point where you have this Zakar and Nekeba, which then becomes your Adam and Eve in the biblical stories, and then it gets to the Adamites of 6,000 years ago. So I'm saying that to say that the Egyptians, or what people call Egyptians, or the Tamarayans, the Kemets, if you want, there are many words that people use. They were animists. They respected nature. We are their ancestors. We are their descendants. By way of the Parnatharu, the Anunnaki came and took that which was evolving into from the Pataites. They mixed their DNA and genes to create a new being that they called a Lulu Amilu, or primitive worker. And that was because they needed a being to work the gold mines, because they were coming here, or they were traversing the galaxy looking for gold. And when that accident took place where Nibiru bumped into Meldic, and then that ended up bumping into Tamat, which was the name of the planet at the time. And then from there, they were like, oh, the gold is actually here. But remember that if you know about the story of Anu, his brother Alalu, which I broke down in the Anunnaki video, he was fighting and wanted to take the throne from Anu. And then he was found guilty, and he ran to the planet. And when he came here, Enki was obviously terraforming the planet. He was also, excavating the gold that was being transported to Nibiru. So I'm basically saying that you've got that slightly backwards, that the Natharu came first, and then the Anunnaki came later. But then the Anunnaki did mix with the seed of the Natharu by way of Enki going into Africa and marrying wives and producing children. And originally, this planet was first inhabited by the descendants of the Natharu, and it was known as the Green Zone, and it was all referred to as Nupu. Right? This is where wu-nuwapu or wu-nuwapu comes from as well. And when it got invaded by these Anunnakis, and this story makes its way up into the Bible in Genesis 6:4 as the Nephilims. But it also talks about the Hindu beings that came in, they say the 200 fallen angels that were in the land of Nod. So you had the Natharu first, then you had those beings in Bali that people refer to as the Hindu beings. They started to worship us, and then the Anunnaki came, and then religion was then formed by way of these Anunnakis, by way of, the Abrahamic religions coming from that, and then it got desecrated and ended up as the New and the Old Testament today. I know I gave you a lot, but again, I am actually jumping around, so, I hope that really helped. And so we should be really moving away from religion, Abrahamic religions, Sumerians, because they're the ones that really enforced the spell of religion. And it wasn't originally for us. It was to control these new beings that, were grafted. And then obviously the Adamite story of 6,000 years ago is dealing with the graftation by the Pleiadians, who were originally being eaten by the Draconians, which is another species of reptilians. And they, the Pleiadians that is, offered to create a different food source by way of creating these Adamites, which is tying into that word I said called Edom, because it's talking about off the ground, dealing with the red or the reddish, dealing with the blood. The blood is in the marrow. This is where the experiment was being done, where they were taking the blood from the marrow, because that's where you find the purest blood. And this is where that whole rib story comes in, when they say that Adam was created and then a rib was taken from Adam to create Eve. You're talking about geneticists that are taking cells and blood and, you know, creating these new graftations. All right, cool. Have we got any more? All right, let me carry on with the, what have I done with my glasses? Let me carry on with the, I always do this. My left pocket. Yo, thank you. You're keeping track. I'm always losing my glasses. All right, cool. Let's go back to, we've got some surveys here. Have you joined the Telegram group yet? Yeah, answer that survey. And if you haven't, join now. Just a click. I think the link is in the chat. Okay, let's keep going. How do I get rid of it? Okay, there we go. Okay, right. Wow. We've got 41% that have joined the Telegram group and 41% that haven't. So we got a lot of people that are out there, and you're missing out because we keep these conversations going. So where am I? Let me see. Oh, okay. Chick Caddy, you said, wadu for replying to my question on twin flames. Wadu means by, and it's W-A-D-U. But we're learning together, yeah? It should be tawuhat or tawutak if you're saying thank you. Okay, cool. Let's keep going.
Someone wanted to know about albinism and albinos.
What do they want to know about it? You see what I'm saying? People just, I want to know about, okay, it's a deficient in melanin, or it's known as lipoma. Because when you have a child, and again, you can have two dark-skinned people that can have a child that becomes an albino. The reason being that because of the many mixing over years, this is why we teach about knowing about your 4 generations in terms of your personality, because when you study genetics, which deals with hereditary and how genes can come about or manifest over generations, over offspring, it's normally in the 4th generation that you will notice anomalies, right? So this is what happened in that case with Canaan or Canaan, because in the Bible, Noah, right, said he was the one that cursed, and he said, "Cursed be Canaan, who was the son of Ham." And that curse manifested in that 4th generation, because you can have offspring and everything is going well, and then all of a sudden in the 4th generation, you can have an offspring that displays some genetic mutation. And so that's what happened, where he came out as an albino, meaning that, he lacked melanin. And so he couldn't really live under the sun, because melanin protects you from the sun, because melanin absorbs the heat. Dark absorbs heat, whilst white reflects it or deflects it. So he had to move to the mountains and was known as a Highlander, because he was dwelling in the mountain region, because it was more conducive for him. Because when you don't have melanin, remember, melanin is everywhere. It's in neuromelanin, it's in your brain, it's in how you develop, it's in your hair, it's in your skin, and so your eyes. So he had to go somewhere where it didn't affect him so badly. So he moved to the cooler climate, and then the leprosy came afterwards, right? Which was the manifestation of the curse, which actually really came by way of, these Pleiadians. And, it's a long story, but you had the Flugorods that came first, and then they mixed with the Canaanites, who were in the mountains, as in the Caucasus Mountains. And then, so anybody a child, you've seen it, you can see pictures online on the internet with albino negroids. And some even have, like, the genetics can come and manifest as blue eyes. And the master teachers actually got, in the scroll, I think it's 18 plus 1, 18 plus 1, 37 genes of the mitochondria. That one, I think, and the Bigfoot, if I can get hold of that, goes into a lot of the story because it also ties in with the beings from Syrian. Oh, here you go. Kadam. This one here, Bigfoot, is called Kabir Kadam, Bigfoot, right? And it shows you, if you look at the cover, you have these Syrian beings that came from Syria. You had the dark one, you had the red one, and you had the white, this in terms of the fur. And when you start to look at the genetics and people on the planet, it then ties into that. It's a very, very interesting scroll. If you don't have that, try and get hold of that. Yeah, so, I mean, you asked a very broad question in terms of tell me about albino, but, you know, there's a lot more detail to go into that. I'm just trying to see if there's anything here. Yeah, so let me just read you a little bit about this Pleiadian. Okay, so it says here, Kum wu-nuwapu karadu wu-nuwapu. For you all, my beloved children of wu-nuwapu, let us make a Adamite. It did not say the man, it said a man, not the first or only one. All right, Kama'u, Pleiadians who came down to this Kawak Taha, planet Earth, on the orders of the Tanan'u, who are the Draconians, right, the Kama'at, reptilians, Nuwapians. The description of these extraterrestrials or Parkama'u, Pleiadians, or Mukma'u, are 9 to 12 feet tall, pale skin, pearl silver iris, and pale white sclera, pale pasty skin, long thin transparent fur, and fanged teeth. They came to Kawak Taha, the planet Earth, not from their own star system, Parkama'at, the Pleiades star system, yet from the northeast star system of Orion, called Aldebaran, of the Ashtar command, by their leader Ashtar Shiran. Remember, this is who Hitler was in contact with, who ruled Arcturus. You can find Arcturus in Job 9:9, Amos 5:8, and Venus, the morning star, referred to scroll 82, mission Earth and the extraterrestrial involvement. And it shows you a picture of the Pleiades star constellation. You can get a star map and see this, and it also shows you the Aldebaran star constellation and the Sirius star constellation. And I carry on, it says, this is what they look like, the Ashtar command and these Syrians I'm talking about. They work with the Kama'u, the Pleiadians, who use their own DNA to make the first humanoids of their seed, the Nordics, who resembled them. Then they mixed their DNA with creatures from Wu-Sabat at Sirius star system. All right, there were 3 giant simians who are also called Yeti, Seti, and Sasquatch, and Shaggies. One was covered with Labin Farar, white fur, another one Hamir Farar, red fur, and the third dark Samir Farar, brown fur. They also stood 12 feet tall. These 3 giant apes were placed on planet Earth long before this as a test done by Sabatu Ashu, Syrian females who made them. The Sirius means Cyrus, or Sirius means shaggy, furry, and these beings were originally placed on Mount Seir, then separated and branched out. So they overtook cavemen's women, Galuba, raped and bred an offspring. The apes and the Nordic birthed a new hybrid species of humanoid on the planet Earth who lived inside the Earth, Shambhala and Agatha. That's a scroll that goes into that. The first Shaggies, Saphir Farah, yellow fur, the Ramid Ayantui, grey eyes, pale skin, and the Sarek Ayantui, blue eyes, came from Parkulub, the canine gene of wolves. The second was born with Hamir Farar, red fur, Kadir Ayantui, green eyes, spotted pale to reddish pink skin, and the third was born with Samir Farar, brown fur, Samir Ayantui, brown eyes, cream-colored to pale skin. These are the 3 root species of their Shabbat tribes, Brits, Danes, and Saxons. These 3 tribes were later to become known as kin and clans. Celts, Celts, and Celts. These three later divided down to the 6 kings, right? Or the Vikings. VI in Roman numeral is 6 and king. So you get the word Vikings. But I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just saying that it goes on to explaining the origins of certain races and species on the planet. Right, have we got any more questions? No? Right, let's carry on with the got the alarm coming up to the chant for those who can chant.
This one was coming quite a lot.
Yeah.
Look at this mic on. Does have the grey aliens, Pleiadians, Anunnaki, reptilians the same soul we humans have?
Does?
Do the grey aliens,
Yeah.
Pleiadians, Anunnaki, reptilians the same soul we have as humans?
No. Again, those are different like species and origins, and the greys. When we say the greys, there's so many different species of greys. It's the kind of the same thing we do with ourselves now, where we say black people or white people, and we don't recognize that there are different species. So when you're saying greys, that's a common term for the ones that most people see that have, you know, that paley, pasty skin and the you know, those shaped eyes and the slit lips. But there are different, there are over 76 species of greys. You've got the Maccabians, the Romardians, the troglodytes. There's so many. So when we say greys, and each one has its own evolutionary cycle. So the original ones, the Maccabians, they were basically extraterrestrial biological entities, meaning that EBEs, and they were designed as scouts to go, like when you go to a new environment or a new planet, you don't know whether you can survive on this. So they were like probes, you know, like how NASA or people that carry out space exploration, they will send a probe to take readings of the atmosphere to see if it's got oxygen, is it just mainly, is it got methane? What can we live and breathe under there? So they were sent to do that and report back. But some of them were then abducted and by the reptilians. Again, there are many species of reptilians, and they would then create hybrids and utilize them. So I'm basically saying that these beings don't have souls, they don't have emotions, they don't have feelings, because they were like pretty much like what we're doing now, where we're developing, or people are developing AI, and then they're going to put these robots, which they're calling intelligent, when they have artificial intelligence, because they're just robots programmed to act and behave as if they have intelligence. And so they just follow instructions and do what they're told. But obviously over time, some of them have become so advanced that they would appear as if they have emotions or have a soul. So yes, you have to be very specific of which species we're talking about. And the Pleiadians, they don't have a soul, or what you would call a soul, but they can mimic, and remember that their offspring will be from where they are coming from. So you do have, like, we are Parnatharu, because we are the offspring of the Parnatharu. We have soul and emotions and so on. So yeah, I hope that's answered the question. When you're talking about Anunnaki, there are different species of beings called Anunnaki. Rahubat Zamal or Zamal Tat, what's your question and where you calling from? And what's your name?
Hello.
Tua Rahubat, greetings.
Greetings, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing my best. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I've just got a question, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you probably have, but basically there's been news about aliens basically going to reveal themselves, and governments have basically they've basically like revealed it to us, like different like I don't know, organizations have kind of revealed it. Like, look, they've been amongst us for ages. We're getting technology from these lots. So I'd want to know, will they reveal themselves this year, or why now? That's the question. Why now? Why are they saying this now?
Okay, I got you. So the first thing is, if you go and look in the mirror, you're going to see an alien. Because what we tend to forget is that we're aliens, or what they call aliens, or extraterrestrial to be more precise. We are all descendants, everyone on the planet, because the original race were the Natharu. Those are aliens, what you call aliens. It's just extraterrestrial because they're extra to the planet Earth, or Key, or the many names the planet has. But I know what you mean. You're talking about, and there are beings walking amongst us and have been doing so, and are your celebrities and TV presenters and people that are doing all sorts of things on the planet that are extraterrestrials or children of extraterrestrials. And we are also, even the three main races on the planet, they're descendants of extraterrestrials. So it's funny to us as Nuwapians or Sabians, because we've been saying this for so long, but yes, it's getting to a point where it's becoming so common because people are waking up out of the sleep or the spell that was put on us for 6,000 years. But it's a genetic doctrine by way of Wu-Sabat that is going to make your DNA explode and wake you up. And your eyes are open, and now you want to know information, you want to know the truth. So what we're saying is that this is something that is inevitable, is coming, and it's going to be more and more open. And even the American government actually did something called Disclosure, where they admitted, remember, for many years they were saying there's no such thing that are aliens, there's no life forms anywhere else. And when we were teaching this by way of our master teacher, Partner Bab Yanun, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, we were made to seem like we were crazy. But fast forward now, 40, now 50 years later, it doesn't sound so crazy anymore, because so many people have had experiences with seeing crafts, whether they are of different dimension in origin, or if they're aerodynamic and they're made here. You now start to revisit stories like with Hitler and meeting these beings from Pleiades, with Venusians. You look at, visitors that came to the White House, a being called Valthor. You can Google this. And many, many extraterrestrials or beings or aliens that people like to use. Even movies like Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, Star Wars, there's so many movies that talk about extraterrestrial, to the point where they're mixing truth with falsehood to confuse people, because some people are saying they don't exist, some people are saying they are because they've experienced them. We know because our master teacher is an extraterrestrial, and he came on the scene saying that, and his sister has written a book called My Brother the Extraterrestrial. He wrote a book called A Man from Planet Risk. He wrote another scroll called Ilion and Planet Risk. So many scrolls, pretty much Mission Earth and the extraterrestrial involvement. The Science of Creation, is God an extraterrestrial? Are there UFO and extraterrestrial in your midst? Mystery Clouds, are there UFOs? There's so many books that he's been writing explaining this for so long. The Holy Tablets, the Black Book, so many scrolls. So yes, it's coming, and he said you will witness this in your lifetime between now and the year 2030. That's why we're saying that, there's certain things you need to get up to speed on, and Wu-Sabat is here to help you do that. But you have to do the work as well. It's not a dip you in water like religion and now you're saved. No, because there's work to be done. All right, so let's move on to the next question.
He says, this is the same caller.
Yeah.
It said, can you ask him as well, are the aliens here to hurt us or improve us? And what do they want to do with civilization? And then I've replied saying both. And
yeah,
we
that's
are
right.
the aliens.
That's right.
And then he said, I get that, but I'm talking about the real ones.
Right, okay, the ones that, some of them are just coming to get food. They see the earth as a supermarket. Just like we go to supermarkets, you get a trolley, and if you're a meat eater, you go to the fridge, or you go to the aisle where they've got butchers, and you get the food you want. Some of them have a long journey, because when you travel here, intergalactically, it's a long journey. You need food, and they like, some of them like human flesh, just like you, or some people like to eat chickens, goats, cows, oxtails, you know, all the food that people season to eat. They do the same. So some of them are coming to abduct people or beings. I mean, there have been movies made of abductions, and many abductees that people have done, you know, like regression, in terms of hypnotic regressions to try and recount their experience. So many greys and beings that have abducted people, and this has been going on for such a long time, not just in the Western world, all over the world, you know. So different extraterrestrials have different agendas. Some of them look at this planet as theirs. They think they own it because they were here in the waters well before the humanoid type that we are, and they think this belongs to them. You have insects that are extraterrestrials. We did a video called Bees Are Aliens, and people laugh and think it's a joke, but you have insects and different life forms that are on this planet. This planet is one of the best planets in the solar system because of its environment. It has different biospheres or atmospheres, right? So you got beings that live in the seas. I mean, the seas are deep. You have all kinds of extraterrestrial beings that live in the seas. You have beings that live in the center of the earth or the caverns in Shambhala, you know. You have beings that live on the surface, most of us. And then you have beings that live in the skies and above. So the planet has lots and lots of different beings coexisting in different atmospheres together. And the reason you have these extraterrestrial like mantis and certain cockroaches and things that you take for granted, even ants and certain insects, that when the planet was being terraformed, they basically brought in plants and trees and insects and different beings from different, you know, planets and different constellations to build this environment, because the planet was destroyed and it needed to be healed and refilled. This is where Genesis picks up from. That was one of those recreations, or the period where you're repairing and refilling. That's what the word bara shith means, to recreate or replenish. When you replenish something, if this is filled and I replenish it, I'm just putting stuff back. So we're basically saying that to say that these extraterrestrials brought things from their homes and brought them to this planet and terraformed it. And now you have, this is why people who suffer from different allergies, like during when the seasons are changing because of these plants, and people suffer from like hay fever and certain things, and other people don't. It's because if it affects your DNA differently, if you have an allergy to that plant or to that fruit or whatever, then you know you can't eat it or can't be around it because it's going to affect you. So yes, we have many extraterrestrials in humanoid form. You've got insectoids, you've got many beings in the sea that people wonder how do they survive, you know. So yeah, we need to recognize that when we say aliens or extraterrestrials, there's so many different types, and we are also a part of that. All right. I'm neglecting the chat. I don't know if you have any specific ones that you want me to address, but if not, let's go back. Right, we've only got 21 minutes left. So if you haven't asked your question, remember the number is, do you want to remind me?
075
075
3996
3996
3882.
3882. I got a good secretarial voice there, innit? Or call center. Okay, so let's keep going.
Are you familiar with light healing?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's the question. Yeah, light healing is dealing with frequency basically, because when you look at yourself, you're composed, even though you look solid, you're composed of atoms, and these atoms are held together. And when you know about frequencies, sound, because sound can be converted to light, and light can be converted to sound. And you can use sound or light healing to, because remember, things are vibrations, as I keep saying. And if something's perfect state is vibrating at a particular frequency, and that's representing health, if that vibration is changed, and you can change your vibration or your energy by somebody else or something else. So you can be healthy and walk into an environment where there's negative energy, and that then you then pull that into yourself, and before you know it, you're sick. This is why we say be careful who you're around and where you go, because different energies will generate different vibrations, and those vibrations can be harmful or good for you, positive or negative, agreeable or disagreeable. So with sound healing, you can raise back that vibration to the level of health. This is where, when you start to look at diet and look at the food and the things you intake, they all have a vibration. This is why when we say don't eat dead flesh or things that have a low vibration, when you have a low vibration, you have a low nutritional value. And that goes to what we call to be more acidic. Acidic vibration or frequency thrives with diseases. And when you're moving more to the other side, where it's more alkaline, because remember, it's an environment, and certain things can't live in certain environments. So if you think about, when you look at the chart from acidic to alkaline, and then the highest value, or the pH value, because that's what you're using to measure, the pH value that is of the optimum balance is of water, which is 7. So the science of healing is about knowing that if your body is vibrating, because your body vibrates at a particular resonant frequency. So if you put too many things that are too acidic, it's going to lower your vibration and make you sick. If you raise your vibration and have live foods, things with water, because water has life, and so on, you're going to raise your vibration. Hence, the whole Dr. Sebi diet was about, having live foods and being more alkaline instead of acidic. We got another call. Hey, Rahubat Zamar, what's your question and where you calling from?
Rahubat, this is Leon calling you from Texas.
Hey, Leon, I remember you from the last episode. How you doing?
Doing well. Just keep my head in the books and eyes in the sky and enjoying life.
That's a good point. We don't look up enough, but we got to keep an eye on the signs and times. But go ahead.
The question I have for you is, everyone's always talking. I know that everyone is still in this religious mindset, so majority of the questions are going to continue to revolve around the Anunnaki. So I'm going to propose this question to you.
Tua.
Zachariah Sitchin, who was known for being able to decipher these tablets that was pulled out of the earth millions of years ago written. Now, with the exception of the master teacher, who in the world taught these cats how to read these ancient writings? Because I always say the same thing. How did Henry Ford build a car when we were still riding horses and carriages? He had no knowledge of a car. So where these Europeans come from with this concept that they could actually read scripts written by our ancestors, when I know for sure, based on the teachers from the master teacher, that they weren't around when they was explaining how to read and write and speak the ancient language. I get off here and I'll listen to your response.
No problem. Appreciate love. Thank you for your question as usual. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we kind of overcomplicate things. The answer is that they have contacts with extraterrestrials who teach them, and these extraterrestrials, Anunnaki, again, remember they're different beings when we say Anunnaki, and the Pleiadians and certain beings they're in contact with. Because even if you remember, like the visitations from these beings I just mentioned, Val Thor, for example, who was a Venerian, or even the Ashtar Federation that were in contact with Hitler, they're able to just telepathically communicate to you and teach you and read and show you things and just put chips in you. And they do that. The guy that's sending rockets up, right? He's putting chips in people's brain. He's actually got a whole company now. And the master told us many years ago that they can just put a chip in you and you'll be able to speak any language now, and this is alien technology. So yeah, if you study, Zachariah Stitchin and go back and look at him, he was basically Stitchin. I always say Stitchin. He was, again, in contact. And so yeah, that's the answer really. They can project things, translate, like even when a master teacher is explaining when the beings, the three beings, Alamo, Sa'at, and I always forget the last one, Krill, when they visited him, at first he was afraid, and then they kind of walked up to him, touched him, and then he could now hear them telepathically communicating with him. They would take him on the craft and, show him constellations, show him screens, and he's just able to. I'm going to give you all a secret, well, not a secret, but something that's very. I wonder if I should. Now I'm going to tell you in the Telegram group, because join the Telegram group and I'll tell you something that you probably never heard before. In terms of, what I was about to say, I'm going to leave it. That's a teaser. But basically, these beings were able to communicate and show the master teacher information in a way that he's just able to know without really having to study. And that's where we're going now, where when you're talking about AI, the way AI works is kind of how social media emerged, like Facebook. These platforms basically allowed you to feed them information, and through that information, they were then able to utilize it to market and, make money from your content, because you just gave your content for free, because people were like, oh, look at me, I'm eating this, I'm here, I'm on this holiday, and I'm here and I'm there. And they just fed the database with the information. Now, the next upgrade to that is AI, because remember, you had to now have search engines to manage the information, because we moved into something called the information highway, where so much information was coming at you that in order to find information was difficult. So they came up with search engines. You had different search engines, Yahoo, and now you have Bing, you have obviously Google being the number one to search and find information. But all that information is stored on databases, on servers, and now AI is able to collect all the information. It's machine learning, it's learning everyone's information from these databases. So it's able to learn very quickly, and it's able to not just, just one search engine, it's searching all the search engines. So I'm basically saying that to say that artificial intelligence can appear to be intelligent, and now they're moving it into humanoid bodies or robotoid bodies, which eventually will have a skin suit. And there are beings, the master has explained to us, these days, even with the like Hollywood and with the what they call effects, they'll have masks and things that look so real that you won't know that it's not a real person. They show you this in Mission Impossible as well, if you watch the movies. So we're moving to a state where these technologies are now going to become so real. I mean, they're making, artificial, I'll just say boyfriends and girlfriends to make it, children friendly. But yeah, we're living in a day and time where technology, extraterrestrial technology, and somebody was asking what they're going to do with us. Some extraterrestrial want to utilize it to wipe out humanity because they see the things we do as barbaric and destroying the planet, and they want to basically get rid of you because they look at you as a manifestation. You're infesting the planet. So we have to raise our consciousness and act and behave by way of a shook love for divine love, for the planet, for ourselves, and we don't carry on like barbarians shooting and killing each other and fighting over, things like land and, So yeah, I hope that's answered that question. Do you have another one?
I'm going to read you some from the chat, yeah?
Okay.
Like a quick fire round, yeah?
Yeah.
We've got 10 minutes left.
Okay.
All these different creatures in the water,
Yep.
Is it okay to go on a cruise?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to think that way, you won't even come out of your house because anything can happen, right? So there's agreeable and disagreeable in every situation. So make sure you're not going on your own and going somewhere that, do you know what I mean? Like it's dangerous. But yeah, there are agreeable that will protect you, and there are disagreeable that obviously have malevolent objectives. So I would say, are you diving or you in a ship or it depends what you're doing and where you're going. Be mindful and cautious and use intelligence. All right, go on, next one.
Any foods beyond supernatural foods that would keep us full for days, beyond jackfruit, but more like a cosmic beyond supernatural food, like a senzu bean.
Okay, there are so many, but I would say in terms of, herbs and being aware of, a lot of people are talking about, they use things like, okay, let's go to, so you need minerals, you need vitamins, not the little pills and all that, because you can get things from natural sources, herbs. People are using things like shilajit. I'm not here to promote any particular product, but what I'm saying is that sea moss, a lot of people obviously use, but that we have a lot of herbs that you can get from, we'll put the links in the chat. So I'm basically saying that what you have to look at is when you're putting things into your mouth, is it for taste or is it for nutritional value? Because that's what you're meant to be doing. You're putting fuel to help you function better, because like a car, you wouldn't put oil into your car. So you have to get the right fuel for your body. So this is why it's important to learn about what gives you the most energy, what gives you the most nutrients, what gives you the most vitamins. So yeah, but if you, and again, we're living in a day and time where most people live in a concrete jungle and they don't grow their own food. And even if they do, the land the soil may not be fertile. The seeds they get may be, from Monsanto. There are different ways where you will acquire what you're eating. And unfortunately, unless you're in control of the entire process from the soil to the seeds to what you grow when you harvest, and you've got chemtrails and you've got ions in the sky, everybody's breathing, you're breathing in carbon dioxide. So there's so many things that can affect you. So you can only do your best based on what's available. People go to, certain markets where they think it's all organic. Yeah, so you just have to do the best until you're in a position to do better. Look at nutrition, look at Dr. Sebi, look at other people that are teaching you, about what you put into your body. But let's go, next one.
Is the green pure light from the beings in the holy tablets is the same green rainbow that Jesus Christ have in Book of Revelations?
Tua, because they all belong to I mentioned it earlier on, the order of Melchizedek, which is the order run by Parnabab Yanun as the highest being, or the green one, as is referred to in the Quran, Al-Qadir. And that green light comes here as a glitch, because if you look at the colors, you have the primary colors, and then those form other colors. The red, blue, and yellow. Yeah. Yeah. And that actually ties in, if you look at, trying to put it, yeah, you've got the blue in terms of atum, you got the yellow in terms of atun, and then you got the red in terms of amun, then it goes into the dark or the black. Hopefully I haven't got the atum and amun mixed up. But anyway, those are the green is a glitch color of his color coming here, and this nature is green for a reason, because then everything that's healthy comes out as green, right? Most of the time. So the trees are green, the grass are green, most of the nature you see around you is green. So the green light is a healing light, and that ties into the other question about healing, because you can use sound to heal yourself. Hence why the tones, FAC in our case, are the tones that will nurse you back to health. So when you chant on FAC, the A realigns you on the A frequency. And then, excuse me, the F is nature, and it aligns you with nature, which is healthy. And of course, you got the C that resonates outside to the cosmos. So you're in tune with all three abodes and anyone else who is vibrating on those frequencies in all those realms. All right. So as 9 ether, you can access all of them. Right. We got 4 minutes left.
One more, yeah.
Yeah.
It says, so you know earlier you said about Vikings.
Yeah.
And it's VI is a 6, and then Kings, which
Yeah.
became Vikings.
Yeah.
What is that from?
Where's that from? As in?
As like what is that about? VI Kings were Vikings.
Yeah, because when we're talking about, if you start to look at the Europeans and how they come about, study the history of the Vikings, how they actually come from the Berbers, and they were the ones they came and mixed in with those beings and raped some of these beings, and they went around. Basically, they were quite barbaric, and then they broke off into the different clans known as, the different tribes, which eventually became, what you're calling like Polish, Irish, Scottish, German, and so on. But their origins go back to the Vikings. And that when you say Vikings, it's just that people don't see it, because it goes to the Romans as well, the Romans and the Greeks. So that's why when you say Vikings, you're not realizing you're really saying 6 kings, because these 6 kings that I've just mentioned formed those original 6 kings or clans that became, what you're calling, as I said, Polish, Irish, Scottish, etc. I can't remember all 6, but I think it's in here. But yeah, if you got one more, we've got 3 minutes left, whilst if I can find that.
We've got a caller, but I can't get through to them. They're calling me on Telegram.
Okay. Yeah, but the 6 kings, that's what it's talking about, going back to the origins. Okay. All right, I think this is going to be our last call for today.
Hello.
Yeah. Greetings.
Greetings. Good evening.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Yes, you're live to the world. And if you could say your name, where you're calling from, and then your question. You have the last question for today, or maybe I might do one from the chat.
Okay. Actually, I'm very happy that I'm part of this. I've been watching you online for a long time, and it's just a privilege to be here right now.
Thank you.
And what I believe everything you're saying, because me as a person, I'm a Nigerian.
Yeah.
I'm a Nigerian, and I came to this long country, UK, about in 2011.
Yeah.
And I'm a Christian, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, back in the year 2000, I used to have dreams, premonitions. These are very real. I'm talking to higher beings, Sometimes they will come to me, they talk, and when they come to you, you won't. It's like they are controlling your mind. You can't even say anything. You just listen. And before they will come through the dream. I will see the dream maybe 4 or 5 days before they, like somebody's coming. Then I'll be prepared who is coming.
Yeah.
So recently, about 2-3 years ago, during the COVID, but this was 2019 November. My girlfriend came, so she was with me. So I was in the house and I was talking to somebody, and she has been downstairs ringing the bell. So I'm sorry, though. I'm sorry. You have to bear with me.
It's fine. Go on. Yeah, you got the last call, so.
I'm not used to all this.
It's cool. It's fine.
And then
Go ahead.
She came. She was angry because I left her in the cold. She'd been knocking on the bell, and so she just ran inside, jumped on the bed, and she slept. So I slept beside her. And 3 days before that day, I saw a dove, very big white dove, landed on me on the bed. So I woke up. I felt like something dropped on me. I felt the wings and the tail, the wings, and it's a very big white dove. So I called my friend.
I know that join the Telegram group and you can tell us the rest. Could you, because we've run out of time, I want you to get to your question, please, and then we can carry on with the conversation.
There's something I want to bring out of this.
Okay, right? Go ahead.
So I'll be off in the next 1 minute.
Okay.
So I saw that in about 3 days before she came. That very day is Friday. So I was on the bed with her, I slept, and suddenly I woke up in the dream.
Yeah.
And I was going through the stairs down. I was descending from the stairway. I walk out of the house. I was hearing a noise, very horrible noise outside. And when I got there, I saw a sheep. It's like a triangle with 3 light beams under the sheep, like an alien sheep, right?
Yeah.
And I was feeling the heat that was coming from that sheep on my body.
Yeah.
So I was shivering like. And what happened? They were now telepathically, they were talking to me like, you see this is what they said. They said, black people, and they said it in my language. I'm Yoruba.
Yeah.
But they said it in my language. They said, black people are fighting one another, not knowing that death is around the corner. And that was 2019.
Right.
You see, 2019, November. So that's what they said. And they left. And I woke up. And I was shivering in the bed. And that was not the first time I've been having such encounter. But January, COVID-19 started and all that. And,
yes.
So a lot of them. I just have to share this with you, just to know that these things are real.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to press you because, as I said, we've run out of time. But if you're not in our Telegram group, it's been posted in the chat. Join that Telegram group because we can carry on with the conversation and you can share more with us. But what I want to say to your experience is this, that a lot of people who are sincere and they mean well, this is why we're saying that this is not about religion, but about your frequency and your vibration and how you're living your life. Because you could be a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, or even an atheist, but what people consider atheist. But if you're living right, treating people right, raising your vibrations, you can experience many of these things by going to different realms, getting visitation. This is why we say clean yourself inside out. So we have had many, many people giving us like their experiences and sharing information. So nothing you're saying. Of course, there are situations where people can have, like we say, hallucinations, illusions, or whatever. But they're also real situations. So we're very, we're very happy that you managed to share your story with us. And Wu-Sabat is a place where people can feel comfortable in sharing and talking about these things that in many monotheistic religions, they wouldn't even allow you to speak or talk about these things, because they say they don't realize that they also deal with extraterrestrial, because they say Jesus came from heaven and he went back to heaven and God is in heaven. And when you say to them, where is heaven, they say up there. So it's outside of the planet Earth, which is an extraterrestrial coming here and going back. And most of the angels and all the stories they tell you about beings coming and how they come, they just interpret them as whirlwinds, Daniel's visions and so on. And so, yes, thank you. The book of Revelation talks about the crystal city, but anyone who didn't get to have their question answered, please copy it and go into the Telegram group and you can ask it there. I know I can see some of my brothers and sisters, student teachers are also helping and answering questions in the chat. So some of you already got your questions answered, even though I didn't actually, address it live. But yeah, we don't want to alienate anyone who didn't get their question answered. You can try again next week, same time, same place, or join the Telegram group, which is really the best way to keep in contact with us and ask your questions, all right? So we want to give thanks, appreciation. I know I got that appreciation love from some of my brothers that kept telling me, when you use that accent, it's like hate, appreciate, you're hating, and we don't want to deal with hate. We want to stay on a high vibration. So sometimes I mess up. And for those, if I make any little mistakes, I am also a student teacher, like many other student teachers. In a Telegram group, we can correct it. Sometimes you get a slip of the tongue, or other student teachers will correct it. So we're very interactive, very available. That's why we do these lives of Ask Us Anything. You see that the questions come in fast and you don't really have too much time to, sometimes I may get an opportunity to read a bit from the scrolls, but you really need to take this seriously. Like when you go to university, they don't even teach you about the universe. So this information teaches you about the omniverses, so take your studying seriously, get the books, get the scrolls, study, research, and come into Wu-Sabat, because Wu-Sabat is the future. If you have not subscribed already, remember, by doing this small thing, you may not think it's significant, but it's very significant. Just subscribe so that you can be kept up to date. Hit the notification bell, of course, so you can get all the alerts and notifications. And of course, share the videos. We want to reach the world. We have some 7 billion people on the planet. And, we're trying to reach 100,000 subscribers, where we will unlock certain things we want to share and give you. And you can help us do that by sharing the videos. These platforms, they work on algorithms because you got AI in the background. They're not human. They just analyze information. How many likes are you getting? How many shares are you getting? How many people are subscribing? And that helps us. So please, use your heart, shook, and help us share the videos, subscribe, join the Telegram groups, learn so that you can become a teacher. You can be a part of the community, because many hands make light work. There are things coming in the future, and we need to be united. Sabians that haven't been around for a while, if you are still in the old doctrine, you need to catch up. You need to come up to date with the hereafter doctrine, get involved in your community, help the stores, help the legal efforts so that we can get Partner Babyanun home ASAP, like urgently. Manifest him in the flesh here, because our minds together link up. The energy that is generated can make anything happen, and we have to visualize him in the flesh with us and sharing more of his wisdom, knowledge. We love him very much. We will never stop fighting, and we know that he will be exonerated and needs to be released now. So on that note, I want to say Ashuk, Wu-Wadu, wu-tawu and kum. Until next week, tune in to the Telegram. Wadu.